Here we are under the mistletoe. Good morning, folks. It's me, Mog. This is Idaho. Wake up, Wyoming. December 27th, 2017. Thank you so much for tuning in. Still the holiday spirit. We still got that Christmas cheer, just like our dear friends over there in Palestine, protesting against the military occupation and genocide of the Palestinian people, keeping it lighthearted in the midst of oppression of all sorts. I know for me, it sure helps to have a well-rounded sense of what's going on in the world, but also not to take it too seriously. That's what we're all about here at Wake Up Wyoming. Coming from our friend Tyler Durden, top headline today: Palestinian Santas clash with Israeli forces on Christmas in Bethlehem. In the wake of Trump's December 6th announcement that they were going to relocate the U.S. Embassy to Jerusalem in order to reflect the change of status. David Cocarico Sedona, you have a man crush on me? I like that, man. I appreciate that. You always make me feel better when you tune in. So thank you so much. What's up, Nikki? Arion coming from Sac, Cali. How you doing there? I'm glad the fires didn't hit Sacramento, too. Good morning, Cass Bass. Let's get right into it. We got a big show today. You can see I got no shortage of news links lined up here. One thing I like to mention occasionally here at Wake Up News is that we don't block anybody ever. And I think that's kind of cool. For a page with a following of over 500,000 people, we never, ever, ever block anybody because we believe in good civil discourse. And I think it's really important, we got all these great people tuning in. I think it's really important that we remember to keep it classy when we're interacting with each other online. David Cocarico Sedona chiming in there. I'm a reverse troll. I spread happiness. Right? Real easy. It's real easy to get offended and start shouting at people. But it's a lot cooler and a lot more effective to keep it classy. This is a great article. I'm going to copy and paste into the links here. Check it out in its entirety if you'd like to, because it's phenomenal. I'm just going to read you a little excerpt. Nowhere is this. This is about how people, talk shit on each other online, don't really solve any problems. And the elites, through the divide and conquer mechanism, the powers that shouldn't be, laugh all the way to the bank, to the White House, throughout the halls of power in the military and industrial financial complex, while people are fighting amongst each other about identity politics and other dumb shit. Nowhere is this contentious conniption of ours more evident than when we are discussing politics and governance. Egged on by a corporate media that has monetized injustice and a political class that turned outrage into a business model to get elected and grab more power, we are devolving into the abyss of pejoratives and ad hominem. Matching wits is passé. We now just throw matchsticks at our opponents and hope they catch on rhetorical fire. Aided by technology, we have become a balkanized society where people seek out like-minded thinkers and lambaste anyone who dares to think differently. Social media once promised to democratize information and connect people who would otherwise never talk to one another. Sadly, it is a norm for social media to be used to terrorize each other with information. It goes on and on, really good. I'm going to read you the last couple of sentences too. What can we do about it? Perhaps we are going about this all wrong. Too many of us are demanding change and protesting one injustice or another, but we keep looking outwardly to fight for equality while we ignore the bigger battle inside ourselves. Mahatma Gandhi once said we must be the change we want to see in the world. If our objective is to prove ourselves right and to elevate our egos, we will just keep feeding into the machine of hubris and pride that is the source of conflict throughout the world. It might sound trite to say this, but love really is the only way we can hope to bend the arc of history towards justice. So we must fill up our hearts with love and heal from within if we are to change the world as we want. Unless we mend within ourselves, we will continue to get what we have. Heal within, love without. America has been turned into a barrel, and the bottom 99% are the crabs caged in it. Instead of uniting to claw at the barrel that is oppressing us, we claw at each other and then wonder why nothing gets done by our leaders. Our leaders are getting paid handsomely to incite our emotions, and then sit back and watch as we unleash torpedoes upon each other. Neighbor against neighbor, siblings against siblings. Politics is tearing us, our families, and our nation apart. Until we learn to disagree without being disagreeable, and until we can be more loyal to ideas than to ideologies, we will keep getting the government we deserve. Trump is the man in the mirror who is a projection of us. Hashtag libtard and rethug. So great article here by Theodore Fickery, the founder at the Guion Journal. I pasted that in. It's just important to note, we can go out there and be assholes on the internet, or we can be cool. Probably better to be cool. Thank you for all the comments. What's up? Roger Stellan in the house. Colleen Rasmussen, thank you so much. Jules Montana, care less, love more. Gino Donofrio chiming in, bollocks. You must be from the UK, brother. Whatever. You can do whatever you want. Coming out of futurism, people are taking Ubers and Lyfts. I think it's important to note Lyft is a good service too, to avoid ambulance fees. Coming from futurism. Using an ambulance to travel to the hospital in an emergency can cost upwards of $1,000. It's a hell of a lot more than that. Now research demonstrates that a significant number of people are instead choosing Uber to perform the same service. The paper, currently being peer-reviewed, examines the effect on ambulance usage as Uber was introduced to 766 cities across 43 states. According to its findings, even the most conservative estimate shows a 7% reduction in people traveling via ambulance where the service is available. So, prime example of technology and humanity working together to make life more affordable and potentially safer. The average response time for a 911 call, I think, is like 23 minutes. And I think that ambulance service calls are about the same. So you can get an Uber a lot faster when you got a bunch of different Uber drivers fighting for their fares and highly motivated to get you to your destination as quickly as possible so they can keep working. Man, that's a long comment there, John McIsaac. I'm going to read it, though. If you want to wake people up, dude, you need to skip all this small crap because you're doing exactly what you want you to do. Waste your time deliberating in a society that will never come to agreement on anything, especially right-wing thinking. All you're doing is adding to the confusion by using false data to reason with meaning. Most of even the awoken are lost in a trap that's designed to be infallible. Okay. Right on, John. Thanks for the comment there. Alexander Morey chiming in. Start off small. Put the pieces together, then smash the whole thing. Moving along. Thanks for all the comments. I'd love to get into this debate with y'all in the comments, but I just got to keep rolling along through the news of the day. Scientists discovered what causes dementia, coming out of Paul Ratner at Big Think yesterday. I'd have to say that geoengineering chemicals, things like aluminum, barium, and strontium that we're breathing in, definitely contribute to dementia and Alzheimer's disease. But they're saying that toxic levels of urea in the brain is partly responsible for the brain damage that leads to dementia, the incurable neurodegenerative disease that causes an impairment of memory and thinking abilities. Okay, urea. What's urea? It's that stinky shit in your piss, right? We know we're dehydrated when our piss is really, really, really yellow, maybe even orange. I guess the point I'm trying to make here, sharing this article, is that it's crucially important to drink enough water, especially clean, healthy, filtered water. People chiming in, aluminum. Me, that's not piss in the glass. I'm drinking some delicious yerba mate loaded with antioxidants and natural caffeine. It's great to see everybody chiming in about aluminum there. Important to note, whether you want to detoxify from the geoengineering, aka chemtrail metals being sprayed down on us, or just decrease your urea levels, it's important to stay hydrated in addition to other things. Moving along, Scotland is starting a universal basic income experiment in 2018. People living in the Scottish cities of Glasgow, Edinburgh, Fife, and North Ayrshire may soon receive an unconditional monthly sum as part of a series of universal basic income pilots currently being explored with support from the local government. Although still in its infancy and rife with controversy, the idea has already attracted a whopping £250,000. Not very much money of public funding in the form of a grant to develop feasibility studies. In a world where jobs are being increasingly taken over by machines, leaders have started to recognize that the welfare safety net will need to change. Advocates of universal basic income believe that the unconditional offer of a regular, though tiny, sum of money could help many get back on their feet and even encourage them to invest in small business ideas. Okay, I'm kind of on the fence with universal basic income. You know, I don't know, kind of, when you're subject to a safety net, whether it's like Social Security or unemployment, you're kind of in control. And just getting a few bucks a month, I don't know if that's going to really help people out. Interestingly, this movie with Matt Damon just came out, Downsizing, and this article is your typical climate change BS where they never mention geoengineering. They never mention the fascinating yet disturbing history of developments in weather modification technologies over the last 70 plus years. But this article talks about, if we could just make people smaller, downsized world, people are richer and their environmental footprint is smaller. Scientists say it's not really possible to shrink people at the cellular level like this, but there are real reasons to make humans smaller that could help offset carbon emissions. So, this article, the reason I'm bringing this up is because it's classic climate change propaganda in the mainstream. It's all about CO2. They never mention geoengineering or anything. One topic that I've thought about for a while, it's kind of along the same vein of the universal basic income, and I want to pitch this to you all and see what you think. Jazz Limbo with a great comment there. We need a maximum wage restriction, right? Yeah, minimum wage is great, but maximum wage would definitely help out too. But the notion that universal basic income, here's an idea. If they want to pay people to do nothing, well, I'm not even going to bring it up. Let's move along. Too controversial an idea, even for Wake Up Wyoming. Still formulating it. But speaking of downsizing humans, talking about human health, talking about urea and geoengineering particulates leading to dementia. Well, I don't know if you've noticed it, but we definitely have a pretty serious obesity epidemic in the developed world. And this is a great article from our friends over there at Naked Capitalism, How Nutrition Science Made the U.S. and Other Countries Fatter. In November, many major news outlets published stories describing how the sugar industry buried research from 1967 that showed that higher consumption of sugar led to increased incidence of heart disease. This effort to depict the sugar industry as using the same playbook as the tobacco industry did to hide mounting evidence of the damage done by its products. But this image lets the group most responsible for the fattening of America off the hook, so-called nutrition scientists. Okay, this is a good little read from Yves Smith over there at Naked Capitalism. I take a good look at their news links they post every day in preparation for the show. If you want to know where I'm getting my information, they cite all mainstream sources, reasonably quote-unquote reputable mainstream sources. That's one of my sources for these videos. I also enjoy taking a look at the indomitable rice farmers news links coming out of Japan. But important to note, back to the topic of sugar and shit, is that, the holidays, man, sure eat a lot of sugar. I don't know about you, but, you get into the holiday mode, celebrating, doing a little drinking, eating a lot of junk food. And I don't know about you, but it just makes me feel like crap. Kind of feel my brain get fuzzy for a couple of days. Couldn't even do a show yesterday because I was just feeling kind of off from too much holiday merriment, if you know what I mean. But sugar is a big part of that. Moving along, let's take care of ourselves. The most important thing, heal yourself, take care of yourself. That includes eating healthy. Nate C. Sims chime in, aka high fructose corn syrup, right? I know it's more expensive to eat organic, but when you're living in the middle of a global depopulation agenda and healthcare is extremely cost prohibitive, probably a good idea to eat as healthy as possible. Ralph Shelton chiming in. I do a juice fast after the holidays. Ralph, great idea, bro. I am going to take you up on that. I got a juicer in the house, and juice fast sounds pretty good. Moving along, this is that article cited there, The Sugar Conspiracy. If you need a reason to avoid eating too much sugar, and I'm hypocritical on this one, I friggin' love sugar. Sugar is so good. They say it's as addictive as cocaine. They say it's as addictive as cocaine. So maybe reading this article from The Guardian, published in 2016, will help you become more aware of the dangers of sugar. Speaking of the holidays, the Christmas tree industrial complex, our friends at Quartz saying what the Christmas tree industrial complex looks like from space. This is pretty wild. You know, this visual is not that spectacular here, but you can see center frame there. Oh, there was a field of trees. Now it's gone. Not the most exciting visual there, but this one is pretty wild. You know, this is a 50-foot square here in the middle of the screen. It shows just how big a Christmas tree farm is. But get this. Christmas tree growing and selling is a multi-billion-dollar industry that takes long-term planning and forecasting. Trees take between 7 to 12 years to reach the standard height of 6 feet. That means big upfront costs and substantial risk for farmers who have only about a month each year to recoup their costs. Many parts of the United States are experiencing shortages of Christmas trees and high prices this year, in part because of cutbacks in planning during the Great Recession. According to the National Christmas Tree Association, total U.S. revenues were $2.04 billion in 2016, just ahead of the $1.86 billion in sales of artificial trees. Okay, crunching some numbers here real quick. That means that Americans in 2016 spent $3.9 billion on either Christmas trees or artificial Christmas trees. Wow, that's a lot of money. And on that topic, I have to say, what would happen here in the United States if instead of buying Christmas trees every year, instead of spending $4.9 billion annually on cutting down beautiful little trees or plastic trees manufactured in China, what if we spent that $3.9 billion on supporting the independent, fearless media instead? And on that note, naturally, I'm getting into my plug for my Patreon page. I'm creating journalism, live streams, and I'm writing a book about my dog. I've got 18 patrons making a whopping $363 per month, and I could sure use your support. I'm very grateful to all my Patreon supporters. I have a new one that donated $1 a couple days ago. Thank you so much. I will thank you personally in the next video, but I don't have time to go digging through the Patreon page right now to find out. Moving along, but I know it's hard to support the independent media when the rent is too damn high. Believe it or not, a record high 30% of U.S. adults now live with a roommate. Okay, I've had roommates, living in Jackson Hole, the wealthiest county per capita in North America. When I wasn't camping out, like kind of marginally homeless, living out of a vehicle or camping out in the woods, I had roommates all the time. A staggering new analysis from Zillow highlights perfectly the unintended consequences. Unintended? I don't know, it's kind of intended. Of central banking policies that drive massive asset bubbles but minimal job wage growth, According to the study, surging home prices and rising rents have now resulted in a record 30% of American adults, up from 21% in 2005, being forced to take on roommates just to afford monthly rent payments. David Cook and Rico Sedona chiming in, yeah, it's called a wife, right? It's always nice when you're a roommate and you are physically intimate or love each other straight up. It goes on and on. So I'm going to paste that one in. Pretty wild. But important to note, the housing market has been manipulated. They tell us that inflation is running at just a few percent, but we can see it in rents, not just for people, but stores. Actual real estate prices, we're going to get into that shortly. At Wolf Street, well, I'll just show you. The Case-Shiller Home Price Index just came out, and we are up. Real estate prices are up 6% above the levels, the previous high levels in October of 2006, 11 years ago, prior to the horrible crash of the housing bubble that affected so many people negatively in the 6 years that followed. We see that also in the retail sector. New York's vanishing shops and storefront. It's not Amazon, it's rent. Coming out of The Guardian on December 24th by Edward Helmsmore. A recent survey by New York Council member Helen Rosenthal found 12% of stores on one stretch of the Upper West Side unoccupied and for lease. The picture is repeated nationally. In October, the U.S. surpassed the previous record for store closings set after the 2008 financial crisis. The common refrain is that the devastation is the product of a profound shift in consumption to online, with Amazon frequently identified as the leading culprit. But this is maybe an oversimplification. It's not Amazon, it's rent, says Jeremiah Moss, author of the website and book Vanishing New York. Over the decades, small businesses weathered the New York of the 70s with its near bankruptcy and high crime. Businesses could survive the internet, but they need a reasonable rent to do that. Part of the problem is the changing makeup of New York landlords. Many are no longer mom and pop operations, but institutional investors and hedge funds that are unwilling to drop rents to match retail conditions. They are running small businesses out of the city and replacing them with chain stores and temporary luxury businesses, says Moss. In addition, he says, banks will devalue a property if it's occupied by a small business and increase the property value for a chain store. There's a benefit to waiting for chain stores. If you are a hedge fund manager running a portfolio, you leave it empty and take a write-off. Lots of great comments here about the nature of ownership. Thank you so much. But the key thing here with this point is real estate prices up, increasingly owned by large financial institutions. Why? Because they've been getting bailed out. Banks got bailed out. We got sold out, as usual, but especially in the wake of the economic meltdown of 2008. And now, due to all the money printing going into the hands of those that are already rich as hell, housing prices up 6% above the previous record, coast to coast. Look at this annual increase here. It's utterly absurd. And then in some cities, it's insane. Boston, home prices up 13% since the housing bubble. Seattle, home prices up 20% since the housing bubble, up a whopping 51% from the low in 2011. Denver, they didn't have as bad of a housing crash as much of the country, and their prices are up 44% since October 2006. Dallas, Fort Worth, similar situation to Denver, up 43%. Atlanta had a serious housing bubble, crashed like crazy, but even Atlanta is above the previous record highs. Portland, wow. Portland, keep Portland weird. I love Portland. I love all the crazy, kooky people in Portland, but they're getting run out of town because housing prices are up 73% since the bottom in 2011 and 20% since the previous, or 20% above the previous record housing bubble. Bay Area, similar, up 60% from the low, up almost 30% from the last housing bubble high. Los Angeles dropped 40%. It's still below the previous record in the housing bubble, which is surprising. But the point is, real estate getting way more expensive coast to coast. So These charts are visual depictions of asset price inflation. Again, we're told that inflation is running at like 2.3%, but how is that possible when home prices go up 6% annually coast to coast? These charts are visual depictions of asset price inflation. A house whose price jumps 20% in 3 years hasn't gotten 20% bigger. What happened is that the purchasing power of the dollar with regards to these assets, since homes have become a global asset class, has been demolished by the Fed's monetary policies that generated little or no wage inflation, that means wage growth, moderate consumer price inflation, and extraordinary asset price inflation. In other words, the value of labor, wages earned, with regards to assets such as homes, has been crushed. And housing costs in general, including rents, are consuming an ever larger slice of wages. This has turned into the affordability crisis now gripping the whole country. Sorry to go on and on there. You all know that. Now, what happens when people can't afford a place to live? They become homeless. Unfortunately, look at this. Christmas Day coming from the Associated Prostitutes. Cities, volunteers clash over feeding the homeless in public. Stranger than fiction, the world we live in. Of course, what do? They blame, we're concerned about the health and safety of these homeless people, and you might not be serving them safe food in a safe environment, so you can't just go out and feed homeless people. That's the argument that the governments make. About 40 cities nationwide have active laws to restrict food sharing as of November 2014, and a few dozen more have attempted such restrictions, according to the National Coalition for the Homeless. Interim Director Megan Hustings said she doesn't have updated numbers, but that she's heard about more cities considering regulations banning feeding the homeless. McLean, a volunteer at the movement Food Not Bombs, was cited November 19th by a Georgia State University police officer after her group refused to stop feeding the homeless in a downtown park, and her lawyers say city officers have been distributing a misleading pamphlet bearing the city seal that says a permit is required to feed people in public places. That's simply not true, said Southern Center for Human Rights attorney Gary Weber, who's representing McLean. Permits are required for restaurants, food trucks, and festival food members, not for people sharing food at no charge, he said. But again, Hustings said restrictions on public feedings are most commonly enacted or enforced when the homeless population becomes more visible. In Atlanta, advocates say more people are ending up on the streets after the recent closure of the city's shelter of last resort. And to that I would add, and housing prices going up 6% annually while wages are stagnant. Even though the rhetoric will be around providing access to safe food or something that purports to be considering the folks who are homeless and need the food, a lot of times our community across the country know it's because citizens don't like seeing large gatherings of people who look homeless. So, yeah, sad to see. Sherry Navarro chiming in. This is all in the plan for Agenda 21. Sherry, I think you're right. Thanks for that. What's up? Is that Jesse? Jesse Chef? Is that Chef Jesse? No, that's a different Jesse. Good to see you, Jesse Metcalf. Thanks for tuning in. Moving along to our next story. Taking a look at tech now. Facebook handing over more info to the U.S. government. This is what Facebook was designed to do. Of course, ironically, here I am broadcasting to you on Facebook. Maybe the government will learn something if they tap into what we got going on at pages like Wake Up News, activist posts, to anti-media, etc., etc., etc. Our dear friends at Zero Hedge, always on point. Every year, Facebook gets tens of thousands of requests for data from governments worldwide, including search warrant subpoenas or calls to restrict certain kinds of content. And according to a new report, those requests are increasing at an alarming rate. According to QZ.com, in the United States, the requests rose by 26% in the last 6 months of 2016 to the first 6 months of 2017, while globally, requests increased by about 21%. Since 2013, when the company first started providing data on government requests, the U.S. number has been rising steadily. It has roughly tripled in a period of 4 years. This is alarming many and causing concern about privacy. Joe Joseph from the Daily Sheeple isn't sugarcoating the reality of Facebook either. Duh. This is exactly what Facebook was designed to do, says Joseph. You have to remember that Zuckerberg had seed money, and that seed money come from CIA front companies that put a lot of resources into this. And basically, think about it as like growing seeds, if you will. They knew that Facebook was going to bear fruit. I don't think they realized just how big it would become, but I can tell you that they get so much information and intel from social media. I don't think that it would go away even if we wanted it to. So that's a good read there. I'm going to copy and paste that one into the comments. And moving on. Speaking of tech companies doing shady shit, Apple, the beloved Apple computer, faces lawsuits after admitting that it slows down aging iPhones. Apple Incorporated defrauded iPhone users by slowing devices without warning to compensate for poor battery performance, according to 8 lawsuits filed in various federal courts in the week since the company opened up about the year-old software change. I'm pretty sure they've been doing that for a long-ass time prior to this software change. A lot of my friends, I've got friends who still rock like an old iPhone 4, and they're like, yeah, I just never update the software, and it keeps running great. It's funny how it happens with my computer too. It'll tell me, oh, you can't shut me down right now because I'm doing a scheduled update. You don't know what's going on. You don't know what's happening here, but you signed on to this operating system, and now, sorry, for the next 30 minutes, don't unplug your laptop. Don't shut down the computer because we're changing things without your knowledge. Thanks. But long story short, Apple legitimately intentionally slowed down the operating system of many people's phones. What phones? iPhone 6, 6S, SE, and iPhone 7, including a feature to smooth out power supply from batteries that are cold, old, or low on charge. So long story short, because people's batteries were dying, they made the phone slower. Instead of say, oh, why don't you bring your phone in and for $20 we'll give you a new battery. But no, this is the planned obsolescence that the world is built upon these days. It's sad to see so many things wasted. In my experience with smartphones, you got to see this. I've only had a smartphone since Standing Rock, right? And I try to be real careful with them. I try not to break them. But here's 4 smartphones that I've broken over the course of the last year. If you want to give me a Christmas present, give me a smartphone. I hate smartphones. I know they track us. I know they irradiate us. I know that they screw up our lives. But they also allow us to communicate with each other in unprecedented ways. But yeah, if you want to know where your money's going that you donated on Patreon last month, it went towards buying a new smartphone and buying another new smartphone because, I don't know, I guess they're just designed to break and I got butterfingers. Moving along, Amazon and Google employees busted in Asian sex trafficking sting, published by our dear friend Tyler Durden at 3:37 a.m. on December 27th. Man, Tyler, you got to get some sleep, bro. But yeah, long story short, these guys, these tech millionaires out in Seattle, San Francisco, Silicon Valley area, are actually using their work emails to solicit sex. And good job, guys. Keep it classy. It's sad that people are stuck. Oops, sorry about that. It's sad that people are stuck selling their bodies in order to get by. But that's the way of the world. More tech news. Library of Congress is stopping full tweet archiving at 2017's end. So if you want your tweets listed in the Library of Congress, tweet your heart out. I don't know. I never really got into Twitter. Maybe it's just me, but never really got into Twitter. I don't know why. So that's that. Speaking of government surveillance, social media, etc., Vietnam just unveiled a 10,000-member cyber unit to combat wrong views. Okay, oh, you disagree with the government? You're wrong. Communist-ruled Vietnam has stepped up attempts to tame the internet, introducing a new 10,000-strong military cyber warfare unit. The cyber unit, named Force 47, is already in operation in several sectors. Tue Tre newspaper quoted Lieutenant General Nguyen Trong, sorry, I can't pronounce that, deputy head of the military's political department, as saying at a conference of the Central Propaganda Department on Monday in the commercial hub of Ho Chi Minh City. In every hour, minute, and second, we must be ready to fight proactively against the wrong views, the paper quoted the general as saying. So that sounds like some pretty backwards reasoning there, right? But it happens even here in the U.S. This is a great paper. Okay, this is actual intellectual ivory tower bullshit, but it's better than most of it. Coming from the University of Oxford University. And it's actually a couple months old, but I guess they're saying it came out today or this month. Trolls, Troops, and Troublemakers, a global inventory of organized social media manipulation. This is a great read. I covered it on the show a few months ago, but it's important to note that of all the countries in the world, or at least the countries they looked at in this study, the United States had the most prolific cyber war information perception shifting troops. Here we go. Organizational density of cyber troops 2017. In this figure, countries with many kinds of organizations, governments, political parties, civil society groups, organized citizens, or independent contractors are in darker shades of red. Data is taken, blah, blah, blah. Long story short, this is a chart of cyber troop density. And the United States is at the top of the stack with a cyber troop density of 5. Russia and Saudi Arabia in there with a cyber troop density of 4. Brazil and Mexico cyber troop density of 3. China, surprisingly, a cyber troop density of only 2, and same with India. So say what you will about the United States, we're number 1 when it comes to manipulating public opinion, using tax dollars, lying to people, spying on people, and all that bullshit. John Pulo chiming in there with a great comment. Oxford is where the Rhodes Scholarship is. Bill Clinton and Rachel Maddow were trained there. Very good point, John. And if you haven't studied the history of the Rhodes Scholar Program, you should really look into it, friends and viewers. It's very fascinating the way this stuff works. Jesse Metcalf says, how do you become a cyber trooper? I don't know, man. You got to look into it. Read this article. That'd be a good place to start. I pasted it in there. There's the link. It's in the comments here. But, you can become a cyber trooper for truth, Jesse. You can do it for free. That's kind of what I do, although I am seeking support on Patreon. Moving along to the cryptocurrency news. I better refresh this because those crypto markets are always changing. Bitcoin down 3% on the day. Ethereum down 5% on the day. XRP up 18% on the day. Bitcoin Cash down 4% on the day. The list goes on and on and on. No shortage of cryptocurrencies and no shortage of volatility in those markets. The Telegraph's telling us Bitcoin at risk of Chinese sabotage. Why? Because most of the big mining operations are over in China. Beijing could render the Bitcoin network effectively useless by taking control of the powerful computers used to maintain the digital currency, which are largely based in China, according to a report from security companies Hacken and Gladius. So just a heads up there. Also in the realm of government regulation of cryptos, Israel, I don't know why this needs to reload, but I'm reloading it. Thank you for your patience. Israeli regulator seeks to block Bitcoin firms from stock exchange. Okay, important to know when they say Bitcoin, they mean cryptocurrency in general. Israel's markets regulator will propose restrictions to ban companies based on Bitcoin and other digital currencies from trading on the Tel Aviv Stock Exchange, he said on Monday. Shares of Blockchain, which is a company over there in Israel, which on Sunday changed its name from natural resources have soared some 5,000% in the past few months since it announced it would shift its focus from mining for gold and iron to mining cryptocurrencies. Fascinating there. If you put the word blockchain or crypto in your business name, you can just have a shocking boost in your stock price seemingly overnight as this mania runs wild. The regulator Hauser in Israel said, "We feel that the prices of Bitcoin behave like bubbles, and we don't want investors to be subject to that volatility and uncertainty. There is an importance to signal to the market where things are. Investors should know where we stand." Jenny Hoyt, I like that she liked that article I shared, or that paper on troops, trolls, and troublemakers. Fascinating read. CoinDesk, they're putting out this year-in review series of opinion pieces, and here's a good piece that says 2017 was Bitcoin's year, 2018 will be Ethereum's. I'm not going to read that all one because I know, crypto things kind of like pissing in the wind, trying to make sense of it all. And here's another good one on growing up in greed, why crypto looks a lot like Wall Street, also part of CoinDesk's 2017 year in review opinion series. This written by a stock trader who has now gotten into cryptocurrencies. For many, 2017 will be the year they first seriously heard about Bitcoin. Oops. As I consider the state of cryptocurrency today, however, I don't see many fulfilled promises. Instead, we have constructed around crypto a warped version of the legacy financial system with all the familiar players, issuers, broker-dealers, exchanges, and custodians, aka banksters. Along with these players come the legacy problems of centralized control, intermediation, systemic risks, market malpractice, and importantly, short-term greed. We may think we are down the crypto rabbit hole, but really we are through the Wall Street looking glass. Okay, this goes on and on. I'm going to read you the last paragraph too, because little secret, you find out a lot reading the first, central, and last paragraphs of articles. But I read this whole thing. It's a good read. Long-term greedy. If the hype of 2016 was all about replacing Wall Street's infrastructure with blockchain technology, then 2017 was all about replicating Wall Street's infrastructure around crypto. This has led us astray from many of the original promises of cryptocurrency, promises about the role of issuers, of intermediaries, and of institutions. The level of integrity in the market, unfortunately, also reflects that of the old system, exacerbated by general market immaturity and a lack of agreed upon standards. Long-term greedy is a notion that crypto would do well, to borrow from Wall Street. The idea is that certain behaviors, while they may benefit you less in the short term, will pay off in the long run. In short, don't rip someone off today if you can rip them off tomorrow. You know what I mean? Or, don't steal $5 out of your mom's purse today if you're probably going to inherit $1 million from her someday. You know what I'm saying? These behaviors include having a steady hand in volatile markets, something cryptocurrency investors are well familiar with. More importantly, though, these behaviors also entail respecting other market participants. I think 2018 will see cryptocurrency markets continue to grow up and self-regulate. 2018 will teach us that being long-term greedy is about more than holding. It's also about maintaining integrity. Finally, 2018 may return us to some of the original intent of cryptocurrency as the market awakens to remember that the real value of cryptocurrency lies not through the looking glass, but in the original promises of decentralization and disintermediation. Okay? So don't look through the Wall Street looking glass. Wall Street trying to take over cryptos. Matthew Kehoe chiming in there with a great comment. Nobody could have predicted the bankster takeover. Laugh out loud. And let them go make money first, then rip them off. I got a really good article here. I don't know if anybody's following it, but the SegWit 2X Lightning Bitcoin fork coming up here. Hard fork take two. SegWit 2X will return December 28th, says the founder. What's this all about? well, it's a new hard fork off of Bitcoin, and some exchanges are promising people that they will be gifted. Here we go. The founder also promised that in addition to the common practice of crediting Bitcoin holders with equivalent balances of the new coin called B2X, they will also receive a proportional number of Satoshi Nakamoto's Bitcoins as a reward for their commitment to progress. Satoshi Nakamoto, nobody really knows who he is. He's the reclusive originator of Bitcoin. Perhaps he's one person, perhaps he's many people, perhaps he's an institution of some sort. Nobody knows who Satoshi Nakamoto is, but the original vision of Bitcoin he had seemed pretty darn legit. In total, 8 exchanges are listed as official supporters of the fork. And the project's roadmap includes features such as Lightning Network support, smart contracts, and ultimately anonymous transactions. Okay, so that's coming from the Cointelegraph. Tomorrow is when this hard fork is scheduled. Of course, it was supposed to happen a while ago. And for a really interesting, I highly recommend people watch this video from Decentralized Thought. If you notice here, his picture, if you go to my YouTube channel, my picture is Janet Yellen of the Federal Reserve, just kind of as a joke. She looks like such a cute old lady, but she controls the Federal Reserve Bank, right? Kind of fucked up. This guy's picture, Decentralized Thought, is Andrew Jackson, the famous president of the United States, who's on the $20 bill. Even though on his deathbed, he said his greatest achievement in the White House was killing the banks, the precursor to the Federal Reserve Bank. I forget what it was called, but back in the 1860s, I believe, Andrew Jackson killed what was the equivalent to the Fed back then. This video, highly recommend you watch it, and it talks about how basically Bitcoin has been bought out. I know people don't want to hear that. I know that it upsets a lot of people, but think about it. The global financial interests are threatened by cryptocurrencies. Bitcoin is the cryptocurrency that came first, has the most name recognition, and for months now, well, maybe years, they've been telling us, oh, it's plagued by slow transaction times and the limitations of the block size. Here's a thought: they could just increase the block size from 1 megabyte up to a couple hundred megabytes. Would be pretty straightforward, pretty simple, kind of like updating the operating system on your computer. But instead, they're creating these new offshoots, the Lightning Network, these forks that will make fees go up, so on and so forth. And this is a great comment here that actually Decentralized Thought pinned. Again, this video only has 44,000 views, so if you can help get the word out about this, this is a great way to raise awareness about the overall situation in Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies in general. This great comment, I'm going to read it out. I agree with the facts of your video in that Lightning Network is going to be for the banks and a disaster for Bitcoin. However, it is not all just the block size that is what really happened, even though it is what everyone has been in an uproar about, but was merely the icing on the cake. The real subversion happened in March of 2015, wherein they added RBF, or replaced by fee, which broke ZeroConf and First Scene. It goes on and on. So to counter the double spend problem, which they created with their greed for higher fees and corporate centralization, they added SegWit, which would later lead the way and allow the Lightning Network. This entire uproar and fiasco with SegWit versus SegWit 2x forks, etc., was supposedly because of a slowing Bitcoin and increasingly high fees. And it was. However, they created the problem to begin with in order to bring in their solution. This is critically called, this is important. We see this all over. This is critically called the Hegelian dialectic of problem, reaction, solution. Create the problem, slow and high fees. Get a reaction, please help us Bitcoin users, then offer up the solution, that being the one that they desired in the first place. SegWit versus 2X was merely a circus show to distract them from what was being created in the first place. Blockstream and other corporate types like MasterCard and related Bilderberg connections are behind all of this since 2015, and were behind both SegWit and 2X. They offered up both solutions to their problem and then let the people choose which cup of poison they wanted. It has all been a masterful deception wherein they will be the ultimate winners unless we, the people, see through this deception and choose wisely. Okay, so what can you do? Bitcoin Cash could potentially be the solution. Bitcoin Cash much more in line with Satoshi Nakamoto's original vision of the cryptocurrency. But I highly recommend that short video. Here's the folks at Blockstream. Some of the people arguably ruining Bitcoin, selling it out to the global bankster cartel. I wish these people realized what they were doing. Look like a lot of smart people, but maybe not super well versed on history and stuff. Just a bunch of tech weenies. Moving along, speaking of tech weenies, banks are looking to use artificial intelligence in almost every part of their business. Here's how it can boost profits. Okay, they're saying that artificial intelligence is not just going to take out truckers, taxi drivers, blue collar folks, manufacturing jobs, but also taking out white collar jobs, even in the banking industry. UBS says artificial intelligence could boost the bank's revenue by 3.4% and cut costs by 3.9% over the next 3 years. Investment and retail banks are looking at the application of AI for things like robo-advisors, chatbots, and compliance tools. But there are challenges to implementation, as most banks need to sort out their data sets in order to handle AI. No big surprise there. You know why AI can handle banking transactions? You know why AI is so effective in the banking industry is because banks don't really do much. It's not really that complicated. They collect money and they loan it out and charge you to collect money. They create money out of nothing. Fractional reserve banking controlled by a central bank. So no big surprise that AI can replace banking jobs, because banking jobs are actually pretty friggin' basic. Moving along to more important, well, not more important news, equally important news coming from the moonofalabama.org. This is one worth reading in its entirety, which I did this morning, but I don't have time to read the whole thing to you. Long story short, it's about the CIA and the media. The coverage of everything from the Edward Snowden releases to the ongoing Russiagate debacle that is gumming up the airwaves and will continue to do so right up until the next election cycle. Why? Because the CIA and other entities kind of control the media. I'm going to read you the closer on this. The Mexican government controls the media by buying an immense amount of advertisement. It thus guarantees income as long as its political line is followed. The U.S. government has its own ways of controlling the media. In the 1950s to 1970s, the CIA ran Operation Mockingbird, which gave it control over much of the news and opinion output in U.S. media. During that time, up to 400 mainstream journalists were working for the CIA. I can safely say I'm not working for the CIA, but I am making $363 a month over there at Patreon. Show me some love, because, how do you fight the powers that be on $10 a day? The method of control has likely changed. The handling of the Snowden affair lets one assume that the CIA induces billionaires like Jeff Bezos of Amazon.com, the owner of the Washington Post, to buy up media and to implement the CIA's favored policies through them. We do not know what the billionaires get for their service. The CIA surely has many ways to let them gain information on their competition or to influence business regulations in foreign countries. One hand will wash the other. James Clapper, as Director of National Intelligence, John Brennan as CIA head, and James Comey from the FBI assessed that Russia influenced the U.S. presidential election. Annex B of their report, which hardly any mainstream reporting bothered to mention, read, judgments, this is from the CIA, National Intelligence, and FBI, judgments are not intended to apply that we have proof that shows something to be a fact. Assessments are based on collected information, which is often incomplete or fragmentary, as well as logic, argumentation, and precedents. That sentence is the core of the Russiagate scandal. There are lots of claims, assertions, and judgments, but no proof at all that any of the alleged Russian influence really happened. It is probably due to the undue influence of the intelligence services that media have adopted that Annex B standard for themselves. With regards to Russia and other issues, assertions are now enough. There is no need to investigate, to find the truth, or to verify claims. How will the system work if an accident happens? Some jet gets shot down and some issue escalates. Will there be any reporter left in the mainstream media who is allowed to ask real questions? I don't know, but I do know the mainstream media is full of shit, so support the independent media. Speaking of crazy shit, Mother Nature just dumped 53 inches of snow on one U.S. town in only 30 hours. Okay, 53 inches of snow kind of reminds me of the 53 inches of rain that fell in the greater Houston area during Hurricane Harvey. 53 inches of rain is a lot more precipitation than 53 inches of snow in terms of total water falling from the sky. But I guess that's what happens when a hurricane stalls out on the coast for several days and just unusually hovers there while dumping copious amounts of rain on Ron Paul's part of the country, Corpus Christi area, the body of Christ. Kind of funny, though. Where is this taking place? It was in Erie, Pennsylvania. I guess they get some lake effect snow there. But wow, 53 inches of rain in Houston earlier this year. 53 inches of snow in 30 hours in Pennsylvania. It's too bad we can't do something about this crazy weather. Oh, wait, we can. They've been manipulating the weather intentionally for frickin' decades. Act like you know. Tell your friends. Don't buy the climate change propaganda BS. And on that note, we're on to this. Well, I'm going to check the avalanche forecast too. Because maybe, just maybe, we'll save a life today here in the Tetons. Considerable avalanche danger in the Teton range. 1 inch of snow in the last 24 hours. Winds out of the west-southwest with an average wind speed of 23 miles per hour, gusting to 51 up there at the top of Rendezvous Mountain. Considerable avalanche danger at low and mid elevations. Moderate avalanche danger below that. I'm going skiing after this, so it's probably good I read this. Your terrain selection choices could end your life today. Oof. At the mid and upper elevations, many slopes are unstable and waiting for human triggers. These slopes are failing on persistent weak layers that could be triggered remotely, possibly by another party. The full understanding of the severity and nature of this hazard is essential to your survival. Goes on and on. Check out jhavalanche.org for the latest avalanche conditions here in Idaho. On to the scopes. JacquelineBegar.com. Again, I don't believe the scopes entirely, but they are a great way to pause and reflect, connect with the astral plane, perhaps. Who wants some scopes? Lay it on me. I'll lead mine first here. I'm having a 3-star day. You can feel it. You might have been suppressing some feelings, which seem to have manifested in a dream you woke up to. I guess that's true. Work with your insights and don't do anything just yet. You are likely to trigger some unexpected events. Try not to be overly reactive. Tonight, make it an early night. So, sounds like good advice. Jerry Wallace, looking for Scorpio. Thank you so much. Salt Lake City Zone. Jerry Wallace, 4-star day for you, Jer. Honor a fast change, but know that it could throw your plans into chaos. You could become reactive and stubborn as a result. We're having similar suggestions there on the scopes today, Jer. Trust that you can handle what comes down the pike. You will exude confidence, allowing others to see the true you. Tonight, keep plans relaxed. Iris Barris Pedrera, I just read Scorpios. Hopefully you caught that one too. Thank you so much for tuning in, as always, Iris. Dolores Quaid, looking for Aquarius. Dolores, thank you for tuning in. I don't think I've seen you here before, but I sure appreciate you being here at Wake Up Wyoming. You're having a 4-star day, Dolores. Keep reaching out to others and be ready to hear some startling statements. You might not even realize how shocking a statement is, as you seem to be getting used to outrageous ideas. Let go of a nagging fear, or else you'll create a bigger nightmare. Tonight, Dolores, hang with a close friend. Pisces coming at you, Daniel Reichert. Always good to see you here too, Daniel. Thank you for your comments, everything you share with me through the back channels of communication. Again, anybody thinks they got a great story for me, add me as a friend, send me a personal message. We've got 15, 16 admins at Wake Up News, so I don't see every message that comes to the page directly. But if you like the show, you want to help out in some way, add me as a friend, send me info. Daniel Reichert, 4-star day. Refuse to become uptight over the possibility of a major change. You could see some financial agreements coming up. You might want some time to assess your various choices. Sometimes you sabotage your own decision-making process. I know that feeling. Tonight, Daniel, out on the town. Have fun with that. Iris, I just, you said please. Okay. Yeah, I got you. Just put the scopes in there once, everybody, and I can keep it clear. Sagittarius coming at you, Shay Vance, 4-star day. You could be exhausted by everything that is happening. Your creativity seems to come up with idea after idea to the point that it's overwhelming. This ingenuity colors your relationships and interactions. You might experience some quick changes. Tonight, Shay, avoid a power play. Dory Blackney, what's up, Dory? Dory, I love the pictures that you post of all these crazy little lizards and fish and things down there in Australia. Man, I hope I get to visit you sometime. Go out fishing with a real Aussie. 4-star day for you, Dory. Happiness surrounds you. Great and unanticipated happening with a smile. You will see how easily your life can flow if you become less critical and more open. You will be delighted by someone else's sudden change of mood. Make fun plans. Tonight, Dory, among the crowds. Have fun with that, Dory. Carolyn Landis Lowry, looking for Leo. Coming at you there. Lots of L's in the world today. 4-star. Take an overview, especially as others seem to be caught up in their own issues and needs. By gaining a new perspective, you resolve a problem. You grow by remaining open. Ain't that the truth? Do not be fearful when things seem to get out of control. Tonight, be willing to break from tradition. So that's good advice there. Leslie Kendrick, the sexy Sag. 4-star day. I think I read that one already, so I'll just leave that up on the screen. Josh Ritchie, what's up, Josh? Thank you so much for tuning in. My man, Capricorn, 4-star day. Do not fight the inevitable with a family matter over a domestic issue. You are likely to make excuses rather than get down to the root of the problem. The unexpected continues to shake up the status quo. Do not fight this trend. Tonight, head home at a reasonable hour. Looks like you got no shortage of domestic issues there, and your profile picture there, Josh, looks like a lovely family, but I can't tell because it's such a small little picture on my screen. Joshua Mata from Florida, what's up, bro? Thank you so much for tuning in. Looking for Libra. Let's get it to you. 4-star day, Joshua. Thanks for tuning in, everybody. Happiness surrounds you. Great and unanticipated happening with a smile. You will see how easily your life can flow if you become less critical and more open. You will be delighted by someone else's sudden change of plans. Make fun plans. Oh, sudden change of mood. Make fun plans. Tonight, among the crowds, and I already read that one for Dory. So, lots of great comments in here. Daniel Reichert, thank you, brother. Have a great day. Shay Vance, thank you. Dory Blackney, my fishing rod's waiting. Yeah. Aaron Graves, looking for Aries. Did I read Aries yet? It's amazing I have a pretty good memory, but when it comes to scopes, I can't remember which one I just read. Didn't read Aries yet, though. 4-star day, Aaron Graves. You might wake up feeling as if you have witnessed a revolution. Consider the pros and cons of getting involved in a power play. You will eye a possible change and might even act on it very soon. Expect some people to be taken aback. Tonight, Aaron, a force to be reckoned with. Thank you, Leslie Kendrick. Much appreciated for you tuning in today. Carolyn Landis Lowry, thank you too, love. JT Wright, I think I already just read Aries, so there's Aries. Roger Stone, I read Taurus off the back. JT, thanks for putting Aries in there. I got it. And on that note, looks like we're done with the scopes. So thank you all for tuning in. Again, if you want to support my work, please go check me out over there on Patreon. I must admit I haven't posted any updates there recently, but I've been traveling. I've been busy. Now I'm back in the saddle, and I could use your support to make this show even better. Darian Flos is asking, what's your Patreon account? I'll paste it in there. Again, I'm not trying to get rich off this show. If I was trying to get rich, I could be probably doing anything but Wake Up Wyoming. I'll make it easier to see here. There it is, right there. So on that note, thank you all for tuning in. Anybody got any questions here, comments? Josh Ritchie saying, crater falling slopes, don't trigger anything crazy. You check the avalanche report, and then your scope said you would trigger an unexpected event. Woo! Josh Ritchie coming in with the big wake-up call there. You know what, Josh? Thank you so much for that. I appreciate that. Maybe I'll just stay here at home under the mistletoe and wait for somebody to come give me a smooch. I don't know. Lots of great info here. Cindy Mather chiming in. No vaccines either. They're full of heavy metals. That's why they push the flu shot every year. I have to say I agree with you, Cindy. It's pretty disturbing. And Iris Barras Pedrera chiming in. But vaccines saved a lot in my country, Brazil. You know, my take on vaccines and medicine in general, like not every vaccine necessarily is bad, but if your vaccines are loaded with mercury, formaldehyde, aluminum, what's the adjuvant? Yeah, sorry, brain fart. Thimerosal. They put thimerosal in vaccines. That's actually mercury. Matthew Kehoe, of course I got a beacon, bro. I'm a professional backcountry skier, dog. Speaking of which, anybody wants to come out skiing in Wyoming, hit me up. I am an adventure consultant, that's for sure. Randall, Hacker for Life, you have a great day too, bro. Much appreciated. Angela Ward says, send me a message on message. I'm blocked but would like to talk to you. Okay. Right on. I don't know who blocked you. It wasn't me. Let's see. This is lots of great comments. It's hard to leave when the great comments just keep flowing in. But on that note, I'm signing off. Dory Blackney chiming in, 50 sacks from the hospitals. They wouldn't take the flu shot. Funny how that works out, ain't it? And on that note, I'm out for the day. Y'all take care. Stay awake, stay aware, stay optimistic. Don't let the bastards get you down. Don't let the banksters take over cryptocurrencies. Don't bet your whole stack on cryptos because you very well could lose it all. But at the same time, we certainly need something to replace this centralized, corrupt, money printing, fiat currency, bullshit bankster financial system. And on that note, I'm out. Y'all take care. One love.